Hi, I'm Donna. If you've never done yoga before, welcome and thank you for taking this time. And maybe you've just never practiced with me, welcome. This is an introduction course to yoga, so we're going to start at the very beginning. And I want you to be comfortable, so just whatever you feel comfortable in, but that you can stretch in. And enough space so you can put out a mat. So a sticky mat is really useful, and it doesn't matter if you don't have one. Most of the postures are going to be fine, but a sticky mat is really helpful. Today I'm going to use a chair and a blanket, and try and get a blanket that's not spongy, so it gives you a little support. And I'm sitting on one, and we're going to start laying down, but when I sit on the floor, it's more comfortable and I can sit up taller if I have my hips a little bit higher than my knees. So that's what I use the blanket for. So get your space ready, chair and a blanket, and we're going to start laying down. So when you're ready, just lay down in your space on your mat if you have one, and try and lay with your spine feeling as long as you can. And you're going to bend your legs so your feet, the soles of your feet, touch the floor and your legs are parallel. So that means if your feet are out too wide, wider than your hips, then your legs aren't parallel. So just wiggle your feet in so they're not touching, but about the same width as your hip bones. And then when you've set that up, it should feel like your toes are heading directly away from you and your knees don't go out or in, but the legs are parallel. Notice if your shoulders feel like they're a little bit hunched up towards your ears, and if that's the case, just see if you can walk your shoulder blades a little flatter or a little closer to your back waist. That makes some more space around your chest. Good. And then if you have to bend your head, your neck to touch the floor, then you could use one of those blankets under your head as a support. You should feel when you are laying down, either flat on the floor or on your head support, that the front and the back of your neck feel like they're nice, even length. Very nice starting position for resting your back, so you can just relax your back now and tuning in to how you feel. So close your eyes and notice your breathing. And this tuning in space will be where you learn the most from your yoga practice. Take notice of each inhalation, breathing in, and each exhalation, breathing out. See if you can notice the really obvious places that your body moves when you breathe in. Maybe that's your chest, maybe your ribs, maybe your belly. And then can you notice the obvious places that move when you breathe out? So maybe your belly relaxes, you might feel the ribs become a little smaller in circumference. So where else can you feel in your body? Maybe you can feel it in your armpits, your shoulders, your arms. And I invite you to have a sense of compassion for yourself, to any parts of your body that might feel a little uncomfortable. And when you practice with that sense of compassion, it can be your guide about if you need to come out of a posture before I do, or not moving too deeply into a pose, just taking what you need. So with that compassion, you can also practice being curious about what you discover. Good, so we're going to try a little stretch now for the hips. So you're going to bring your feet in closer and just see what it feels like to take your knees out wide and try and get the soles of the feet together. It might feel like a really strong stretch for the hips, and that's where those blankets can come in handy. You can put them in, fold them up, I'll show you. Just stay lying there. So if you, depends on what size your blankets are, but if you use them like that, it might make that posture feel more comfortable. Okay. And of course, if it was uncomfortable, even with the blankets, just come back to what you were doing. So legs parallel, feet parallel. Otherwise, this posture is called Supta Badakanasana. And that language is Sanskrit, the original language of yoga. And you can use English words, of course. Bound angle pose, laying back. Find your tuning in space, the breath in, the breath out. Be curious about whether this feels like a nice feeling or an unpleasant feeling. So we're not looking to push or to hurt, but definitely to be curious about whether you can breathe deeply and feel the breath right down into the belly. I'm going to add a little bit to the stretch just by taking the arms softly overhead. So you'll see how that feels in your shoulders. So if you keep the elbows bent, it's a little easier for the shoulders. You want to keep the collarbones wide, so at the front of your chest, front of your throat. And then place your hands so they're not touching, but just see if the elbows fall back towards the floor easily for you or with difficulty. Just making sure your neck feels nice and long, front and back of the neck even. And if that feels okay in your shoulders, you can go for a little more stretch and take your arms out straight, palms facing, and give the sides of your waist a big stretch. But when you stretch your arms, you don't want to squash your shoulders or your collarbones into your neck space. So keep the collarbones wide, but reach your arms, reach your fingers. Slightly press the soles of the feet together. Just notice what that feels like. So the whole body engaged, and be curious, finding that tuning in space. Nice work. And then bring your hands back into your body. Ease your legs back up to center. Good. And we're going to roll gently to the right side. So you use your left hand to help support. Just let your legs roll and help to lift yourself up. And we're going to come into a all fours position or a tabletop position. Good. Now, this might be tough work for your wrists if you're not used to putting weight onto your wrists. So we're going to have the wrists under the shoulders But then if that feels too strong in your wrists, just walk your knees back a little until you take that pressure out. You just start where you need to start. And have your knees back a little from the line of your hips. Good. And we're going to tuck the toes under. And we've got different shaped feet, but if you can, you're going to try and get your little toe down onto the floor as well. But if you've got to really turn your heels out, don't worry about that. Just let your toes stretch where you can. And we're just going to gently move the bottom back and then shoulders forward, just to where your wrists feel okay with that movement. Stretch your fingers apart and try and have even spaces between your fingers. So as you start to do this, there's going to be sensation. Be curious. Is it your hands that are most evident in what you feel? Maybe it's your toes, your feet. Maybe it's your back. Good. Okay, and we'll just release the toes for a moment. Okay, and then we're going to make circles around the wrists. So press your fingerprints into the floor. Press the base of your index finger into the floor. So we're making nice big circles. If this is hard on your knees, if you've got a hard floor, you can put a blanket under your knees. And then other direction. And all the while, breathing. Sometimes we forget to do that when we're trying something new. Just enjoying that in and out of the breath. Trying to find your tuning in space, even when you're doing something else. Good. And now we're going to arch the spine up to the ceiling. And then down towards the floor. Keep going and start to become aware of which part of your spine seems to move most easily. Maybe it's the spine between your shoulder blades. Maybe it's your lower back. So you're finding those parts of your spine that have the most flexibility. Remembering that you're having compassion for yourself in the way that you move, so you're not hurting. If your hands are getting sore, you might want to take a little rest. In fact, I'll show you a very nice rest we can do now, child's pose. Good. And depending on your knees, you take your bottom back onto your heels. So if that's uncomfortable for your knees, there's a couple of things you can do. You can take your blanket and put that in behind your knees so the angle is improved. Good. And then we're going to stretch the arms forward. If that still doesn't help, then you can do the same thing, but keep your hips higher. So you don't have to take your hips all the way back to your heels. But stretch your arms as far forward as your shoulders allow. And we're going to start to move the chest towards the floor. Good. If that feels a little too strong in your arms, a little too strong for your shoulders, you can just rest your hands underneath your forehead. If it feels fine for your knees, then take your pelvis as close to your heels as you can. And give yourself that nice stretch forward. This posture is forward Virasana or forward hero posture. But if you rest your arms back beside you, it becomes child's pose or Balasana. Just relax your shoulders here, keep your collarbones wide. Find your tuning in space. Find your breath.
Be curious about any tension in your body. And let go of what is not necessary. And when you breathe in, invite ease and space into your body. Good. And then reach your arms forward. And we're going to come back up into our all fours position. So bring your knees so that they're hip width again, so your legs are parallel. Find the position you need for your wrist to be comfortable. So stretch your fingers out wide, press the fingerprints, the base of your index finger. Good, and arch your spine up and your spine down. And be curious. Do some parts of your back feel like they want to move easily and other parts feel like it's difficult? Feel the breath travel the whole length of the spine. Even try wiggling a little bit from side to side. Arching the spine up, arching the spine down. Nice work. And then we're going to come up to standing. So you're going to do that in a way that feels easeful for you and you feel safe. I'm going to just walk my hands back, tuck my toes under, and roll up. Now I can take my arms overhead because I don't have high blood pressure. But if you do have to be cautious about taking arms overhead, taking your head lower than your heart. So make sure you've checked in with your doctor. Okay, we're going to stand. In the same way that you started laying down and your legs were parallel, that's what we're looking for when you're standing. So I've got my center line of my thighs parallel. My ankles are right underneath my hip bones. So if I poke around, I can find them. So ankles are under there, so legs parallel and toes facing forward. Good. Just feeling that even weight from side to side. So there's an even distribution of work across the feet. Great. Lift your kneecaps. Lift your quadricep muscles. And see if you can lift the front of the hips. When you make that movement, if you're using your legs, it supports the spine. So your muscles might be used to holding your back like that. Maybe a little bit the opposite way, but what we're looking for is optimal length in your spine. And if you don't use your legs, the spine has to take all the slack. So really lift the front of the legs, the front of the hips, and feel how the spine sits now on the pelvis. Good. Let the front of the belly lengthen, the breastbone lift. Relax your shoulder blades down. And we're looking for that easy balance of the skull over the spine. And if we roll the upper arms all the way out, so you let your chest be nice and wide, spacious. Have your palms facing your outside of your legs. Good. Close your eyes. Find your tuning in space. The in-breath, the out-breath. Tadasana, mountain pose. Feel your feet as the base of the mountain, planting you into the earth. And the top of your head reaching, so you're going to be as tall as you can be. Good. So if it's fine for you to take your arms overhead, you're going to reach up. But when you reach your arms up, remember, you don't want to squash into your neck space. So keep the shoulder blades down, keep the collarbones wide, keep the neck relaxed. And reaching.
finding that depth of the breath in your body. Make sure you keep using the front of your legs, so lift the kneecaps, lift the quadriceps, lift the front of the hips. Good. Bring your hands back in front of your heart. Good. Back by your side, Tadasana. Nice work. All right, now we're going to use a chair, and you might not need it, but we're going to try a forward bend. So forward bends help to limber up our backs, our lower back, our hips. Good. And what we're going to do is that same arms up movement, or if you can't take your arms overhead, you can start from here and have your hands onto your knees. But we're going to bend the knees a little and reach forward and see if you can take hold of the back of the chair. Good. If you can easily reach the seat of the chair, then put your hands there. Okay, first thing you might notice is, oh, my hamstrings are tight. So bend your legs. Okay. And then just ease your shoulders as far forward over your wrists as your wrists allow. We're going to make that shape of moving the spine up and moving the spine down again. Okay, so you might be here. Might have to walk in. Just find where it's easy for you to hold on to. If you're a very flexible person, lucky you, you can just use the floor here. But just using the chair to help you make some room to find that movement all the way along your spine. Good. And finish off with the movement where your spine reaches forward. So we're going to make that valley shape in the lower back. And lift your breastbone. Draw your shoulder blades back. Okay, and now walk your feet back a little until you can start to bring your arms and your torso into one plane. So it's going to be a big stretch in the shoulders. Just go as far as you need. So remember, curious and compassionate mindset. Good. You can have your legs bent if that's what your body needs. You might be able to play around with straightening your legs. But if you do that, try and lift the front of the knees, lift the quadriceps, lift the back of the legs, lengthen. Notice if your back got pulled into that rainbow shape again. Just as much as you can, bend your knees. See if you can make a valley shape again. So you're going to lengthen just where you need to. Maybe you've got your legs bent, but you could straighten one leg and then the other. So you can alternate. Just finding where the stretch is for you and just how much you need. No more. Keep the back of the neck long. Keep breathing. Find your tuning in space. Good. And then bend your knees and walking forward towards your chair. Good. And we're going to bend the knees to roll up, so you can bring your arms overhead if that's okay for you. Look up. Good. And as you exhale, back into your mountain posture, Tadasana. Remember that big lift in the front of the legs, the front of the hips. Let the spine elongate, but the shoulders relax. The front and the back of the neck, even length, so that your head just balances with ease. Let the chest be wide and spacious. Feel the feet evenly distributing weight from inside edge to outside edge. Let the toes lengthen. Share the work. Find your tuning in space. Good. We're going to do one more forward bend. So raise the arms overhead, look up. And as you exhale, find where you need to hold on to support your forward bend. And this time what we're going to do is put the heels right underneath the sit bones, but you can have your knees as bent as you need to.
So you're going to reach your arms forward as far as you can. If you don't need the chair, you might be reaching onto the floor. But what we're looking for is that ability to move your spine, to reach your lower back forward, to lengthen your belly, to lengthen your chest, keep it nice and wide. You might be able to open the armpits, lengthen them. So you bring your ears lining up with your upper arms. Good. And again, just find what the stretch needs to be for your legs. So maybe you're already at full stretch, just discovering that edge of your movement. Maybe you can straighten one leg, then bend it and straighten the other. So no need to push, no need to go further than necessary, but be very curious about what that edge is in your body. Find your tuning in space. The in-breath, the out-breath. Good, and then bend your legs and walking forward towards your chair so that you can roll up. Bring your arms up, look up. Good, and as you exhale, Tadasana. See if you can remember those things. Parallel legs, front of the legs lift, spine lengthens, belly and breastbone lift, head just balanced. Shoulder blades reach down, space around your heart. Mountain. Good. And then from here, we're going to take a seat on the floor. If you really can't reach the floor, you can sit onto your chair. Do that in a way that is comfortable for you. I'm going to sit up onto my blanket because it makes sitting easier. When I sit and my knees are a bit higher than my hips, it forces my spine into that curve. So the higher I can get my hips, the easier to lengthen the spine. So I'll show you from the side. So it's not a very thick blanket. It's enough for my body, but you might need a little bit more height. So be up as high as you need to be. We're going to sit in cross-legged position unless that hurts. So an alternate posture, if it does, is to just put your legs out wide. And for some people that's going to be problematic with knees. But if you have another support, you can put that underneath your knee or knees, and it just has to be whatever size to reach. But if you put that rolled up support underneath your knee, it makes it much more comfortable. Okay, so cross legs. It's really natural for us to have a dominant side. I'm right-handed, and it's always more comfortable for me to sit cross-legged with my left leg on top. Okay, but sit the other way. So put your unnatural feeling side on top if you've got cross legs. Good. I'm going to put my left hand to the outside of my right knee, and this is my other hand to help support, and look for as much length in your spine as you can. You might notice I'm sitting to the front of my blanket, and that's helping to tip the pelvis forward. So if you sit right at the back of your blanket, then it's tipping the pelvis back, but we really do want to feel like we're on the front of the sit bones. So that as you lift your spine, you can sense that concave or that inward curve of your lower back. Good. And then lifting your middle back, your neck, base of your skull.
Just close your eyes. You want to find your tuning in space. When you breathe in, feel the lungs expand, the diaphragm move into the belly, the ribs expand. When you breathe out, notice the void left by that exiting breath. Maybe there's a comfortable spaciousness that you can move your ribs a little further into this posture. So if your left hand's on your right knee, you're turning to your right side. Your right ribs are moving back, and your left ribs reaching over to the right, but without squashing your neck, keeping your shoulders relaxed. Let the ribs be doing the main turning here, not your neck. So neck stays relaxed, just follows the turn of the ribs. Following each in and out breath. Good, and then gently release. And coming back to center, and if you're cross-legged, change to your natural feeling position, so other leg on top. And we'll take the right hand to the outside of the left knee, left hand onto the blanket or the floor for support. Just have a sense that you're not tipping your lower back, but reach it up and forward. Lift your belly, lift your breastbone, and let your ribs turn. You want to keep the neck long, relaxed. So draw the shoulder blades down. Close your eyes, find your tuning in space. Find the inhalation, the obvious movements in your body of that inhale. Find your exhalation, the void that makes in your body. You might find you can move your ribs a little more into that void, into that space. So ribs can move strongly here, but neck stays relaxed. Spine lengthening. Good, and then release. And come back to center. Good. Take your hands behind your hips and lift your breastbone. Good. And we're just going to walk the hands forward and see if you can ease your belly longer and over your legs. Reaching the breastbone forward. Some people have a lot of movement here, so you can take your hands forward if that's you. But try to avoid the temptation to reach forward and squash the front of the body. So keep that sense of your lower back long, reaching forward, space around your heart. Good, and then walking your hands back and swap the cross of your legs again. Hands behind your hips. Lengthen your lower back, lift your belly, lift your breastbone. See if you can lengthen the belly and reach it out over the legs or the space between your legs if you're working with straight legs. Just reaching as far forward as your body needs to. See if you can be a little playful. Find some movement from side to side in your spine. Good. And then releasing and coming up. Good. And we're going to lay down. So even if you need a neck support here, we're going to be lifting the hips, and you might find that it's too strong on your neck. So just listen to your body. You want the neck to feel comfortable in this posture. So we come back to the starting position with the legs parallel. The feet are just hip width distance apart. Good. And we're going to lift the tailbone, just the tailbone, so your belly hollows towards the floor. Good. And then see if you can lift your pelvis and then follow bone by bone of your spine up away from the floor. Good. You can just have your arms resting onto the floor so that your chest stays wide. And you lift up as high as you can, and then you let your back bone by bone back down onto the floor. Good. When you get to your lower back, press it into the floor. Let your abdomen feel really hollow, and then completely relax. And again, tip your tailbone up first, hollow your belly, lifting bone by bone of your spine. Maybe it feels like some of the bones are stuck together. So we're just going to look for a little bit of easy movement. It might even help you to tune into that movement if you wiggle your hips a little from side to side as well. Try to loosen up between each bone of the spine. Good. And then come back to feel centered. Find your tuning in space. Good. And we're going to lay out for the relaxation. And a couple of things you might need: a blanket maybe under your head. So if you have to bend your head back to the floor, put a blanket in under your head and your neck. So this actually pushes my neck the other way, but I'm just putting it here to show you. So I'm comfortable with my head on the floor, but you might need a support. And the other thing I'm comfortable with is to take my legs out so that I'm just flat, but that might pull in your lower back. It did when I started doing yoga all those years ago. So a really nice way to alleviate that is to take a supported blanket. I'm just going to double it over, and the higher the blanket goes towards the tailbone, so it's not under my lower back, it's under my legs, that's going to make a little more space for your spine. So that might be a really nice option for you. And in Shavasana, we just want to let the legs roll out to their natural shape. Have the arms out far enough from the sides of your body so your armpits can relax. All those muscular attachments can be relaxed. Palms roll up. If they roll down, it closes the front of the chest. So if they roll up, there's a little more space for the breath. Make sure you're warm enough. And when you find the supports that are really comfortable, easeful for your body, try and make yourself as symmetrical as you can, so you've got even weight under your both sides of the pelvis, both legs and feet, both shoulder blades. Some people like to put an eye bag on. It's just a nice weighted, dark pad that goes over the eyes, so you could use that if you have one. Or else just close your eyes. Tuning into your breath. To the sensation in your body. So you stay for as long as you need to here. So you can pause the video. Taking every opportunity to let go.
to let go. And when you're ready to come out of the posture, you bend your legs in, rolling carefully to your right side. So bring your left hand across your body to support. Easing yourself up to a seated position. Sit with your spine as long as you can. Your shoulders at ease, your neck at ease, your head balanced. Bring your hands together and thumbs gently to your breastbone. And lift that part of the body so you have a feeling of spaciousness and lightness, ease. And it's traditional at the end of yoga class, the teacher says namaste and the student says that back. You can say it to me if you like. And it's just a beautiful greeting. It has the sentiment of care and compassion for each other. Namaste. So I hope that you take the feeling of the practice with you into your day. And in the rest of the introduction course, we're going to build on some of the concepts you've felt and discovered in your body today. We're going to continue to be curious and compassionate and build strength and stamina and balance. And I hope you continue to join me in that practice. Thank you.